What's happening, y'all? Welcome inside the Fantasy Stock Exchange. Danny and Bush coming at you today with episode 75 of Dynasty Decisions. Almost, 3/4 of the way to 100. You guys know how much we love doing this series. We love doing it for you guys. You guys seem to love it as well. This is where we take your trade questions, your rebuilding, contending questions, your rookie pick questions, and we wrap them all up into basically a team audit for you and break down your team. So we got 8 teams to cover today. Of course, as always, if you want your team covered in the future, our patrons skip the line. If you want to sign up over there, you email us your team in Excel format and say, hey, I'm a patron, and you'll skip right to the head of the line, and we can get to your team even before the NFL Combine starts. So that's how you do that. Obviously, you can submit your team for free as well, but there is about 27, 28 teams in the queue right now, so it might be a bit of a wait. But before we get into it, Danny, how you doing?
Doing well. And yeah, like you kind of said, big weight in the queue. So if you want to skip the line, Patreon, the deal by now. But yeah, I'm ready to roll. It's episode 75. It feels like just yesterday we were doing episode 50, which is pretty remarkable. I mean, appreciate you guys for sticking with us nonetheless. But ready to roll up the sleeves, ready to set you guys up for the future with these dynasty decisions. But before we do that, as always, okay, at the intro.
All right, so the first team that we're going to cover here is from Brian Riley. He is a patron of ours. Two quarterback super flex league, start 8-10 team, full PPR. Patrick Mahomes and Dak Prescott. You obviously have a big time advantage there. Dalvin Cook, Kenneth Walker, Leonard Fournette, David Montgomery, Tyler Algier, and CEH at running back. Justin Jefferson, CeeDee Lamb, T. Higgins, DK Metcalf, Rashad Bateman, Cortland Sutton, and then at tight ends, George Kittle and TJ Hawkinson. So a pretty well built team. I would say a competitive, win now type of team that you got here. 2023 picks, you got the 109, 209, 309. So it looks like you came up a little bit short of the championship this year, and then all of your future picks. So he said this team has finished in second place 3 of the last 4 years, which is definitely brutal. He's like, I cannot seem to get that championship. Team is built via the draft and a number of trades over the past couple of seasons. He said there's some teams in this league that love to trade, that there's still a few teams in this league that don't love to trade, which is why they're constantly in the bottom 4 of the standings. Questions for us basically is, how do you engage these teams who never trade to get a deal done? And then what deals, if any, would you be looking to make? Still believe that he's one of the top 2 teams and want to compete again in 2023. So what are your thoughts on his 2 questions that he has there?
Yeah, this one's a tough one. So for the first one, how do you engage with these teams who never trade to get a deal done? Sometimes you just got to accept that some people aren't as degenerate when it comes to dynasty as us. They're not checking their phones in February, late February, to see a dynasty trade. So you kind of have to pick, and you kind of have to know when they're going to start paying attention to fantasy and when to start communicating with them. You don't want to be hostile. You don't want to just say, hey, listen, I sent this a week and a half ago. Like, where's my answer? Like, because some people just don't check their app, especially on Sleeper. I can tell you what, there's been offers I've had just sitting in people's inboxes for weeks on weeks on weeks, especially in the off season, because people just don't check. So for the most part, even though our fantasy schedule, our fantasy calendar is, 365, 12 months a year, we're always on our phones. Some people may only look at it for 4 months of the year and then just go, fishing and go bowling and don't check their trades. So it's tough sometimes because you definitely, want to pick your value pockets and you want your league mates to be able to be on their phones for when you're trying to do so. But you're just at the mercy of your league sometimes.
Yeah, exactly. There's nothing really you can do about it if they're never willing to make trades. The other thing too is they could just be those type of league mates that will only make trades that significantly benefit them. Ergo, you send them a deal that seems fair for both sides, and they counter with something that's outrageous. That's only make their team good and make your team worse. So that there's people like that in every single league. I'm sure we've all experienced fantasy and dynasty players like that. He said, what deals, if any, would you be looking to make? He said he feels like he has a young core, especially at wide receiver. I would agree with that. Looking to maybe make Dalvin Cook and George Kittle available. I think that's probably fine. He said in hopes to gain some early first-round draft capital. So if that's the price tag that you can actually reasonably get for those players, then I would be looking to sell pretty much anybody that's a older, productive piece like Dalvin Cook, George Kittle, Leonard Fournette, David Montgomery, anybody like that. Probably your receivers are fine, maybe Cortland Sutton as well. Because if that's what your league market is like, then I'd be looking to to transition some of those guys into early draft capital in this class, or maybe some younger pieces that have a little bit more risk attached to them. Maybe if Dalvin Cook goes that high in terms of draft capital, you can transition him straight up into a guy like DeAndre Swift, who has a lot of question marks around his situation, but would still keep you in a competitive window as a running back. He says, would it also be crazy to dangle out Mahomes for a haul, say a return of like Lamar, a young wide receiver in the 102 or and 110 or something? I mean, if you can get that from Mahomes, absolutely. But
it depends what type of young receiver.
Get that personally, at least in the leagues that I play in.
Yeah, like if not to mention too, it depends on what young wide receiver. Like if you're talking, like some random wide receiver 3, okay, at that point, like you're still gonna take the deal, but like what type of young receiver are you talking about? Because if it's like an overpay and you're getting fucking like
Drake London, Traylon Burks, Jameson.
Yeah, Williams. I was gonna say Traylon Burks. If somebody gives you Drake London, I don't care. Like I'm sending that yesterday. In terms of you have 110 or a 1 here, I'm assuming that's a 110 or a 2024 1. Definitely try to get future capital, because it does seem like in this league that they really value that immediacy, that immediate production value. So even though we in FSC, a lot of you guys that follow us, including yourself, will realize that a 2024 random 1 is going to be more valuable than the 110. In some leagues, people just don't want to wait until 2024, especially if you're saying right now that 4 teams out of the 10 in your league are not active. I can tell you what that does to the other 6 teams. They're going to push their chips in because they don't want to have to deal with those other guys. They want to get the production right away. They don't want to have to wait and scrounge value, because realistically, they already know that they're dealing with the same league market with the same 6 teams. So it's fascinating. If you can get that type of haul from Mahomes, I'd be doing it. Try to get that 2024 1 if possible instead of the 110. And like you kind of said, if you can get any type of early first-round draft capital for Dalvin Cook, especially George Kittle, of course, but Dalvin Cook especially, like I'd be happy getting early second-round draft capital for Dalvin Cook at this point. So if you could make that type of flip, even if you have to add, the 109 to get an early first projected in 2024 or an early first this year's class, sign me the fuck up.
Yeah, exactly. That's a perfect example of what I would do. You give somebody the 109 in Dalvin Cook to move up to, I doubt you'd get to 101, but maybe in this league market, it's possible. Even 102, 103, 104 area, just using Dalvin Cook to get up from that 109 could really, really benefit your team. You swap out Dalvin Cook for Jahmyr Gibbs, and suddenly you're still in a competitive window here, and you have the ability to get younger at that position. That would make a lot of sense for you. So you made pretty much good observations overall. I don't even really think you need that much help from us. So you're in a good spot. You can definitely continue to maybe make some moves to increase your longevity, but still compete in 2023. So let's move on to the next team here from Matt Leach, 12-team, 1 quarterback league, start 10, 4-point per passing touchdown, full PPR, half-point, tight end premium as well. So Jalen Hurts is his main quarterback, but that's pretty much all he needs. Not a whole lot going on at running back besides, Antonio Gibson and James Cook and some other guys there. But Chase, Metcalf, DJ Moore, Deontay Johnson, Jerry Jeudy, and Brandon Ayuk, that's, 6 top 30 wide receivers with like 5 of those guys pretty high up for me. Tight end, you have Kyle Pitts and a tight end premium, definitely a valuable piece to have. You will be adding Bijan Robinson to this team with that 1 quarterback 101, the 201. Hopefully you can take a dart throw at like a day 2 or day 3 running back that has a good landing spot. Same with those late second rounders and the early third rounders you have. So, this team is pretty well set up to be able to go into at least a house money year this year, if not an actual competitive window, because you just look from a pure redraft perspective. You have a guy who's going to be going very high in drafts in Jalen Hurts. All these wide receivers are going to be going pretty high as well. And Kyle Pitts in the tight end premium is really going to be an advantage at that position. Once you add Bijan Robinson as your quote unquote hero RB, all you have to do is throw darts at 201, 210, 211, 212, 302, 303, or even potentially trade some of those picks for current NFL players at the running back position. And you will be, ready to compete as soon as this year.
This is an extremely well-built team, honestly. I could tell you've been watching the content. You have your anchor quarterback. You got, the gold standard at tight end. An extremely well-built wide receiver core. You're talking about a wide receiver core, especially where you can start up to 6 on a weekly basis. Chase, Metcalf, Moore, Deontay, Jerry Jeudy, Brandon Ayuk are all going to be in your lineup pretty much every single week that they're healthy / not on bye. So the main, obviously, weakness, but you have the 101 to fix, would be, getting an anchor running back. And like Corey said, those seconds and thirds are just taking, late day 2/early day 3 type of dart throws, your Roshan Johnsons, your Chase Browns, your Tank Bigsby's, all those guys should be filling in your second round pick. So you fill out that core, you already have those wide receivers. Maybe you add like one wide receiver just so you have, an option off the bench, sure. But realistically, like you can, like Corey said, turn this thing around into a contender right away. You ask, actually, is this team ready to compete? I do think once you add, a top 5 level redraft running back in Bijan and some depth behind him, I absolutely think you can compete this year. So, obviously it depends, the context of your league. If there's like 3 monsters, which I sincerely doubt the fact that your team's already in this well position. Yeah, I definitely do think you can compete. Do have some trades listed here. Basically gave up Walker plus the 106 plus the 202. Ended up getting 101 and Deontay Johnson. It was basically the aggregate of 2 moves that he made. I'm fine with making that move realistically because if you're talking about it, Walker plus the 106 plus the 202 is probably what Bijan is worth at this point, given market value.
Yeah, I mean, we're talking about a 1 quarterback 106. So you're going to miss
mean.
out on Gibbs in the top 3 receivers, most likely. You're looking at Michael Mayer, Zach Charbonnet, somebody like that. And then the 202, again, you're looking probably day 3 running back prospects or middling, wide receiver prospects in the second, third round of the actual NFL draft. So you essentially gave up like Zach Charbonnet, Kenneth Walker, and Tyler Scott for Bijan Robinson. So you're in a pretty good spot there with that trade. I think you definitely, he basically has his like off-season goals listed here. And one of his goals was to convert his draft capital into like tier 1 and tier 2 wide receivers, which he obviously did by trading for Jamar Chase, which you can see here. He traded away the 102 in this year's class, the 111, and Justin Fields. Again, this is a 1 quarterback league for Jamar Chase. To me, like Jamar Chase is probably the first or second overall pick in the startup.
Yes.
And you got him for, Gibbs, who's probably like an early to mid second round pick. The 111 is probably like a third, fourth, fifth round pick.
Probably like the 107.
Probably like a 6th, 7th round pick.
Like, what do you think Fields would probably be worth in this format? Probably like the 107, 108.
Yeah, probably something like that.
So, like, yeah, like in a 1 quarterback league, go out, get that superstar. You mentioned here on face value, I probably would have wanted a little bit more to go from Higgins to Metcalf, but you do have here, if you have them on the same tier and you have a lot of Higgins into your portfolio, I don't mind making that type of transition there. Should still get some production. Just probably would have wanted a little bit of a piece to move on just because of the age difference. I mean, it's not that much, but you know what I mean? Like in terms of market value. Jerry Jeudy for the 107, 1 quarterback league. I think that's fine. Appropriate price to pay. And then this one, you have a lot of Burks. I think given the use,
it's a tear down,
upside,
in my opinion.
Yeah,
I think that's a tear down. Burks, to me, I think I would have wanted a better win now type of receiver for Burks. I think I would have wanted Pittman, somebody like that, over a guy like DJ Moore, or maybe, I mean, you got Jeudy already, maybe Ayuk or something.
Yeah, someone like that, or maybe even like you want to go for like a productive, like production type of wide receiver if you're going to give up Treylon Burks. Because realistically, like you said, this team can potentially compete. I would look to see maybe if you can get, someone like Cooper plus a pick, or somebody like, an older receiver that can give you top 15 production plus a pick, if you're going to move the longevity type of value that a Burks type can give you. So overall, I do think it's a little bit of a downgrade. DJ Moore, unless he gets a big quarterback upgrade, you're nearing on a near 25 or 25, 26-year-old wide receiver that hasn't had a wide receiver one season.
I'm pretty sure.
It's already 26, so even worse. I thought he was 25 going on 26. So yeah, that even makes the case further. So you're basically getting, 4 or 5 years older and not that wide receiver one type of elite standing, if you will.
Yeah, and I'd say the rest of your goals, I mean, you made the Walker trade to go up and get Bijan Robinson. I think that was a fine pay. Like you said, did I pay too much? No, I think that was a fine price to pay. And then he also says, like, my other goals are to, like, hammer running back in the draft, hammer tight end depth in the draft with some of those late seconds and early thirds. I think, you're in a pretty good spot. And DJ Moore, for what it's worth, turns 26, I think, in May or June. So he's almost 26. He's not quite 26 yet. So overall, I think this is a pretty well-built team. You got, your goals pretty clearly lined up. You have, onesies advantages. You have very good wide receiver depth on this team. So I would say that you are in a good spot. We can probably move on to the next team here, which is from David. You guys can see the team on the screen there. Full PPR, 1 quarterback league. It is not a super flex by the looks of it. And he says in 2024, a kicker will be replaced by an additional flex. Good call there. And then an extra wide receiver spot will be added in 2025. So The league format it's pretty shallow as it currently stands, with just 2 running backs, 2 wide receivers, 1 flex, no super flex spot, but it is going to get deeper in the future. So as of right now, you guys can see the team. He has Joe Burrow as his main quarterback with Trevor Lawrence in reserve. So definitely 2 high-end dudes there. Najee Harris, Nick Chubb, Cordero Patterson, Khalil Herbert, et cetera, there at running back. Chase, Amon-Ra St. Brown, A.J. Brown. So a lot of elite wide receivers there with Kupp and Ayuk in reserve. Then Dalton Schultz, Dawson Knox, Greg Dulcich at tight end. And then he also has the 209, 309, 409, and 509 this year. So does not have his first-round pick, but he does have all of his future picks. So obviously, he wants to compete this year because his team is in, I would say a relatively competitive looking window with the receivers and running backs that he has. The guy with the 101 needs a quarterback, apparently. He has Kirk Cousins and Jimmy Garoppolo and some running backs. He said, should I try and trade Trevor Lawrence, Patterson, Herbert, a bunch of, pieces for Bijan plus Jimmy G or something similar? I mean, if you can somehow get that done, you should absolutely do that. Like, again, try and think of this in terms of startup value. I don't know if this is actually a realistic trade offer that you have, or if this is just you guessing. If you're guessing here, I do not think you're going to get even close to Bijan Robinson with this package. But if he actually said this is something he's looking for, then yes, absolutely do this trade. Because as good as Trevor Lawrence is, even in a 1 quarterback league, he's probably a 5th round pick, a 6th round pick, maybe in a 1 quarterback format, maybe a little bit earlier if the quarterback position goes higher in your league format. You're talking about the consensus 103 off the board in a startup with Bijan Robinson, or at least a top 5 pick. So for me, I think this is an easy smash if this trade gets it done.
Yeah, it's a heartbeat type of move. This is basically just saying, hey, listen, buddy, I'm going to take you behind the woodshed. There's nothing you could really do. I'm sorry. It's a fair game at this point. That's basically what taking Bijan from this team would do. And this guy giving up Bijan for that type of price is what makes orphans. So if you can make this type of move, all power to you, because, you'd be significantly getting better. But if that guy does that move, I just give up Joe Burrow if you have to. Give a fucking, a receiver if you have to too. Like, fuck, at this point, if he's willing to give away Bijan.
I'd say let's craft a more realistic trade offer, because to me,
Yeah.
I think this is you posturing and thinking how much you can get Bijan for. I don't think that I think this guy's going to laugh in your face personally. But if he accepts this, by all means, if it was me, I would probably take Trevor Lawrence,
Chubb or Harris.
Yeah, Chubb or Harris, and then you're probably going to need to throw in Brandon Ayuk as well. That's what it's actually going to cost to even get in the vicinity of Bijan Robinson, in my opinion. But
you might have to be giving up at least, if not Ayuk, at least the 2024 1 and 2 and your 209, to be honest. At least.
Yeah, that's what it should cost to get Bijan. So if you can get it for anything less than that, if he's like, hey, you know what, I don't love Patterson and Herbert, but I'll do it for Trevor Lawrence and Chubb or something like that, then you should absolutely, again, take him to the woodshed and be on your merry way. Because if you can somehow transition Nick Chubb into a younger version of Nick Chubb plus pass catching upside, then you're probably going to be laughing all the way to the bank after you win this league. So again, overall, your team, like you said, very, very much in a win now window. I personally would see what you can get for Najee Harris and Nick Chubb, just because we're not very big proponents of holding running backs like that. But if you can't transition off of them, if everybody in your league kind of is wise to their trade value, then I'm fine kind of rolling into the season and trying to compete with this team.
Yeah, no, for sure. I would also maybe gauge the market on a guy like Dalton Schultz. Maybe see, because I feel like in most leagues, for whatever reason, Dalton Schultz is valued higher than a guy like David Njoku for some reason.
Yeah, potentially. I mean, he had a good season in 2021, and then, aside from the injury this year, he had a pretty good season, played pretty well in the playoffs. So it's possible that you can transition off of him, but that's just little moves for the most part. Your team is pretty well set up to be able to compete yet again. We can move on to the next team here, which is from Corey Jameson here. He said it's his first year playing Dynasty last year. So he just went through his first full season in a Dynasty league. He said he's looking for some guidance on his team. It's a 10-team PPR Superflex league with Jalen Hurts, Daniel Jones, Trey Lance, and Jordan Love as his top quarterbacks. He's Sam Smellinger as well listed down there. Christian McCaffrey, Isaiah Pacheco, Aaron Jones, Alvin Kamara, and Kareem Hunt. So very much a win now type of running back core there. Jamar Chase, Drake London, Christian Kirk, Mike Williams, Isaiah Hodgins, Michael Thomas, and a couple other guys there at wide receiver. And then Evan Ingram, Darren Waller, Mike Gesicki. Said he finished in 9th and he has all of his own picks. So I don't know how the hell you finished in 9th with this team, considering some of the seasons that some of these players, unless you mean you finished in second, you finished in second place by 9th. I'm not exactly sure, but does he have his picks listed here? I don't actually see his picks
doesn't
anywhere. So I'm not exactly sure what his picks are. I'm just going to assume you have all. Oh, he says have all my own picks here. I have made no trades. So if you finished in 9th, does that mean you have the 102 this year in a 10 team?
No, he'd be. There's one of his trades here that he'd be selling McCaffrey for the 102. So I'm assuming he means like 9th out of 10.
Yeah. Okay. So he must have came in 2nd with this team. That would make a lot more sense.
That would make sense because I mean, like McCaffrey, Aaron Jones, Jalen Hurts. Yeah, you definitely came in 2nd. Okay. Would you look to transition into a rebuild, keeping core pieces but selling the rest? You read my mind here because there are a couple players on this team that I would definitely be looking to sell high on. Especially you mentioned this is your first dynasty startup. I'm assuming like you said, it hasn't been very active. I'm assuming it's a lot of more casual type of players. Guy like Evan Ingram coming off a good year could be a bargaining piece that you could use. Obviously, he was a top 8 level, 6 level tight. I don't even know where he finished, but he finished
He was a
this
league
year.
winner down the stretch for sure. And his teammate Christian Kirk also coming off of a big year.
Yep.
Isaiah Pacheco coming off of a solid rookie season. Daniel Jones coming off of a big year. Aaron Jones, Alvin Kamara, and Kareem Hunt are all aging running backs that I'd be looking to transition off of. Seeing what you can get for Christian McCaffrey would also make a lot of sense as well. So again,
speaking of McCaffrey,
he said he got the 102 offered for Christian McCaffrey. Where are you at with this? Superflex 102, you want that for Christian McCaffrey?
And 10 team, it's a little bit like weirder because like in a 12 team, obviously I'm smashing this, no doubt about it, because I mean, like in 12 teams, you have 3 quarterbacks. I think I would just do it because you're never going to get an offer like 102 for McCaffrey again. But I would try to maybe see what type of utility McCaffrey would offer you to other people in your league versus what type of utility the 102 would offer you. Because again, if this is a more casual league, that's why I'm a little bit hesitant. Because a guy like McCaffrey holds a lot of name value in these type of leagues. I'm still looking to move him regardless, but I'm just seeing like you're pretty much kind of set at quarterback for the most part, unless Daniel Jones can net you a mid-first round type of capital because he had a good year. You're pretty much, roll into the season as is at quarterback for the most part. If McCaffrey can net you, like you already have Drake London, but I was going to say like Garrett Wilson plus something, maybe Garrett Wilson plus a mid to late first or something might be reasonable in this type of league format. I'd just be looking to see what type of utility McCaffrey would offer you when you go to other owners versus what the 102 would offer you when you go to other owners.
Yeah, at face value, I think this is a great trade, though. Like,
100%.
if this is the best you can get for McCaffrey, 102 is Bryce Young for me, and I would rather have him than Christian McCaffrey. He's
even in a 10-man team, yes.
Even in a 10-man league, he'd still be a top 2-round startup pick versus a guy that I'd probably be more in like the third round area for Christian McCaffrey. And then it offers you the ability to sell off some of your more risky quarterbacks, potentially, that can net you some good value, like Daniel Jones, who's up for his contract extension, Trey Lance, as well, with the situation going on there in San Francisco. You might be able to transition that into like future 2024 capital. Maybe you package them with some running backs and get yourself a stud running back or a stud wide receiver or something like that. The other trade that he has listed here, he sends away Trey Lance for the 110. I probably would just hold Trey Lance. The 110 in a 10-man league, again, you're looking more so at your Charbonnet type of, Quentin Johnston maybe slides down there, but for the most part, you're looking at like that second and third tier of prospects in this class. I think you should be able to get more for Trey Lance. And if you can't, it means that your league, again, in a more casual league, I wouldn't imagine people value Trey Lance very highly because he hasn't been on the field to play games. So you're more likely to be able to sell Daniel Jones for a lot more in exchange. Like, so if you have Jalen Hurts and you take this McCaffrey trade, you add Bryce Young to the team and you just hold Trey Lance, then you have yourself a future, quarterback core there, and you sell off Daniel Jones for, let's say, a random 2024 first and maybe even a second on top of that because, Daniel Jones had such a great season this year. Maybe you could also wait too until he signs an extension with the Giants. That might give people more, security about buying into somebody like him.
Yeah, no, I agree with that. So you basically have 2 routes, right? Seeing what the utility of McCaffrey can get you. Maybe you can get some young receivers plus, pick equity if you were going to hold your quarterback core. But like Corey said, if you want to take the 102, if you want to draft Bryce Young and you want to move Daniel Jones, that could also be a very, very good option. Especially, it all really depends on the market value in your league for what people would want to give up for McCaffrey and what people would want to give up for Daniel Jones. Because if people are willing to give you, like Corey said, mid plus first round capital, or maybe a mid to late projected 2024 1 or something like that for Daniel Jones. Yeah, you make that move. You get Bryce Young, basically takes that part, and basically you upgrade from Daniel Jones to Bryce Young and still get, a mid to late first for McCaffrey, which, in a casual market may not be like a crazy amount, but it's well worth the upgrade going from Jones to Bryce Young.
Yeah, and you're getting younger on this team and
Yes.
positioning yourself better in the future. So yeah, first move is definitely shop your aging running backs, Kamara, Jones, Hunt. If this is a casual league, you should be able to package, even if you had to package Jones and Kamara together to a contender to get one first-round pick, that's going to positively impact your team in the future. And again, if this is a casual league, maybe you can get 2 1s or a 1 and a 2 for those guys. And another guy I'd inquire about would be Kyle Pitts, just given that in casual leagues, people tend to undervalue him. You might be able to transition Christian McCaffrey plus Aaron Jones to a contender for Kyle Pitts in a first. Like that might actually be a possibility in a league that you play in if that's how your league market behaves. So definitely inquire about somebody like him as well. So we can probably move on to the next team here, which is from Mark. 12 teams, super flex, half PPR, start 9 league. Startup was in May of 2022, so it's a new league right now, and probably no, monster teams available. But he does somehow have Mahomes and Lamar on this team. So, and somehow have Jefferson, Lamb, Wilson, Higgins, and London. So you have 2 of my top 5 to 6 dynasty quarterbacks. You have, well, let's see, my wide receiver 1, my wide receiver 3, my wide receiver 6, my wide receiver 8, and my wide receiver 9.
Look at the picks. Look at the picks.
And you somehow are adding Bijan Robinson to this team. You have the 109, 211, 303, 310, and you got 4 1s in 2024, one of them being early, 2 of them being mid, 1 being late. So, Mark, we are not going to spend a whole lot of time on this team because you are in a very, very good position where you have a ton of superstar caliber assets and you have the ability to add more superstar caliber assets to this team. So we're going to see how we got these assets by going through these trades. He gives up the 102, the 111, the 112, the 205, and Michael Gallup in exchange for the 105, 202, 209, a 2024 first. I don't know which one specifically that would be, and Drake London. So London's the best, asset in this deal, in my opinion, or close to the best asset in this deal. 102 and Drake London, give or take, would kind of cancel out maybe one London plus the 202 for the 102 kind of thing.
Well, I was just gonna say to put it's pretty simple to me,
right? 2 late ones is what you're gonna say.
Well, I was just going to say, let's say hypothetically, the 111, the 112, 205, and Gallup is like London and the 209. Let's just say hypothetically.
Or London even in the 2024 first if you wanted to cancel that out.
Or fuck, London in the 2. I don't even think that like I would rather London in the first there, but London in like the 202, let's just say for ease sake, right? Then you're looking at the 102 you gave up, and you got the 105 and a 2024 first, and obviously the 209 as well. So, yeah, give me your side here. I love Gallup. I think he could bounce back, but Drake London is a 30% target share rookie 21-year-old wide receiver. Like, we're talking about a guy that can quite literally be a top 4, top 5 wide receiver in Dynasty by the end of this year. So Gallup just doesn't have that ascension type of value. Even though you're giving up the 102, like I would rather, this is super flex, so I'd rather the 102 than London, but like London, the 102 is going to be like a half to maybe like at most a round difference in startup value. So getting that type of elite asset, if you're going to move the 102, I'm more than capable doing. I'm more than fine doing.
Yeah, you could cancel out London plus the 2-2s for the 102, no problem. Trade 2 he has here. He gives away Travis Etienne, Treylon Burks, Josh Palmer in the 303. He gets CeeDee Lamb a 2024 first and Trey Sermon. Now, obviously, Sermon, Palmer, I don't really give a shit about those assets. They're
how'd
fine.
You get an extra
Sermon
first?
In the 303, whatever. Lamb versus I think this might be a package just for Lamb himself. Like
that's
so
what
the
I was going to say.
2024 first is gravy here.
Yeah, like if you were to tell me you gave up Etienne and Burks for Lamb, I would have been like, okay, that's a pretty fair market value deal. You got a 2024 first as well. Now I know why you have 4 2024 first. You're just getting them like inserted like cherries on top of your sundaes.
Yeah, and then this deal is a little bit more fair. 105 2024 first and DK Metcalf for Justin Jefferson and the 211. That's probably a fair deal. I wouldn't say that you won that trade. I wouldn't say that you lost that trade. That's probably fair market value for Justin Jefferson. Trade number 4, you give up Kenneth Gainwell in a third. You got a 2024 second, Dearness Johnson, Dontrell Hilliard. Again, give me the second round pick. It's the best asset in the deal by a landslide there. So he said he's happy with his roster construction following a 1-year productive struggle. So it sounds like Mark listened to the video that we talked about where going into your startup and punting the first year is typically the best strategy to deploy, given the strength of this running back class, given the strength of the quarterbacks and wide receivers at the top end of those drafts coming into startups last year. He said his needs are really RB2, QB3, maybe a tight end upgrade. Any suggestions on targets and when should he move his 2024 capital? So for me, Honestly, dude, I think house money year this year. I'm not even inclined to move my 2024 picks. You definitely could. If there's like a value pocket,
Sure.
Jamar Chase goes down with an injury and he's out for the season or something, and you wanted to buy low on somebody like that, then you could use your 2024 picks in that scenario. But I would probably only do that for elite assets. Maybe Breece Hall looks rough for the first 3 weeks of the season because he's coming off the ACL tear. You could, send that late one that you have in 2024 for Breece Hall. I'd be totally cool doing something like that, but I'm not going to get hasty and be like, as soon as Bijan's on my team, I'm shoving my chips to the middle.
Yeah, no, I agree. I mean, you have the framework. See, the problem with a lot of dynasty managers, and if you're listening to us, be glad that you don't have this mindset, is people see, some type of success or some type of build that they think that they can win right off the bat with, and they just advance the process just a little bit too early. Now, we always say, okay, yeah, if you're going for that first year, once you decide that you want to be a contender in the long term, when you want to, win the championship, okay, but you got to sacrifice sometimes. If you're going to go for the championship in year one, you're not going to have 4 2024 firsts added to your team. That's already ridiculous for the year after. So I would rather, go a 4 or 5 year stretch of being a top 2 team, potentially winning 3+, 4+ championships in that stretch, versus going all in year one and maybe winning, 1 or 2 max, right? So it's just all depending on like what you want to value here. Because for me personally, like Corey said, I am waiting 1 year, house money. Fuck, if you want to move, one of the first, like he said, for like a guy like Breece Hall, I would need a cornerstone asset coming back if I'm moving my liquidity.
Yeah, exactly. You're only buying low on cornerstone pieces because that's really all you need to add to this team is more cornerstone pieces. You're at the point in time where you can sacrifice a little bit of value because your wide receiver core is ready to compete right now, as is your quarterback core. Once you get a capable QB3 added in there, then you should be, and you might get one at 109. If the class is really low on like an Anthony Richardson, he might slide there and he'd be a perfect QB3 for this type of build as well. So you're in a very good spot. Like I said, we don't need to spend much time on your team. So we're going to move on to Alex's team. The next one that we got here, 1 quarterback, start 9, 12 team, no tight end premium. So a lot of 1 quarterback talk in this video today. Lost in the finals last year, he says, was the 101 trade and overpay. I sold too much depth? Any roster construction player specific takes / rookie pick strategy would be awesome. So this is his team. Josh Allen's his main QB. That's pretty much all he needs. Ken Walker, Tony Pollard, Ezekiel Elliott, Spiller, etc. at running back, Jefferson and Chase and Garrett Wilson and Marquise Brown as his wide receivers. Tight ends has both Andrews and Pitts on this team. And then he has his trades listed here. He somehow has the 101 with this team. I have no idea how. 110, 209, 211, 305, 411 on this. So he did make a trade for the 101. So we'll talk about that in a second. But overall, looking at this team, I think it's pretty clear that you can win with this team, obviously, right away. And Alex, you also are very well set up for the future.
Alex, I'm going to keep it real with you. It's a 1 quarterback league. Yeah. So you have Josh on. You're fucking set there. Okay. Maybe you add, 1 person with the 209, maybe Anthony Richardson falls. Sure. That's all I really care about adding if you're going to add to the quarterback room. Man, like some of these deals, like I wish there was a sheep in the room. The sheep in the room actually was the other guy with the way you fleeced him, to be quite honest.
Might need a sheep sound drop to be able to play sheep trades.
Really, though, because I mean, this trade, Bateman, Wandale, Greg Dulcich, 109, 402. If somebody sent that to my inbox for Garrett Wilson straight up, I'm declining. And the fact that you got Ezekiel Elliott, Pollard, and 209 out of it, that's just free real estate, I guess. Next deal, I don't know how Andrews is going for some fodder and a late first in a 1 quarterback league and a 204 in a 1 quarterback league, but like this is a guy that's legitimately going to be what? A top 15 startup pick in 1 quarterback leagues?
Yeah, I mean, you got a game-breaking asset here to the point that you have the best 2 tight ends in Dynasty on your team. It's not a tight end premium, which obviously would make them more valuable, but you could still use both of them in your lineup if you needed to. Yeah. And obviously, I think what you're hoping for is you use Andrews as your productive guy, Pitts develops into your productive guy, and then you can trade Andrews. And that's where you're at there. And he said, Did I overpay for the 101? No. I don't think he gave up enough, to be honest. Travis Etienne and DJ Moore. I mean, Travis Etienne, where does he go in startups? Late first round in a quarterback format, maybe early
late
second
first
round in a 1 quarterback?
Late first, give or take, yeah, around there, early second, because he's what, like a 4th-ish round startup pick in a Superflex, late 3rd?
Yeah, I'd say he's probably about a late, like once you get rid of all the QBs, he's probably like the 4th or 5th, maybe 3rd running back off the board. There's probably 5 or 6 wide receivers, 7, 8 wide receivers that go ahead of him, plus Pitts. give or take. I'd
London,
probably even potentially take a
Andrews.
guy like Josh Allen or Mahomes over him, even in a
I
one
would.
quarterback league. You're at a point where ETN is like at best probably at early mid second round startup pick. DJ Moore is going fourth, fifth round, probably not even that high at all. And then the 101 again is the consensus 103, at least in our opinion, in a one quarterback format. So I don't think you paid enough, to be honest.
Yeah, if I'm going to keep it brief with you, we'll quickly go over maybe what you could do with your rookie picks, but I don't think we need to spend too long here. You have the 2 top wide receivers in Dynasty, another guy who's flirting with top 5 with Garrett Wilson. He's like, a top 10 wide receiver, could be top 5 by the end of the year. Marquise Brown, if he's healthy, should give you top 24 level production. And then at a running back, you're going to have Walker, Pollard, in particular, adding Bijan. Andrews and this team is ludicrous. 101, you're stapling for Bijan. Unless somebody's willing to fucking give you 4+ versus value, just take Bijan and go fucking win your championship. Honestly.
Yeah, and I think a lot of you guys always ask us, like, it on the surface, it seems like we're always talking about rebuilding, but like this is when you get to a point where you're like, I don't have to decide when I'm competing. My team has decided for me.
Yeah.
You add Bijan to this team, you're stupid at every position. You have like the best 2 advantages somehow at tight end. You have the best, pure raw, like redraft quarterback in fantasy, who's still young. You're going to have Bijan added to a solid running back core. You have a stable of good wide receivers. Maybe you could use some depth there, but you can probably spend that 110 on a Josh Down.
I'm trading up with the 110.
Yeah, you could trade up with the 110. You could send it away for a veteran because you're in a winning window. You could send it away for like Mike Evans or something if you wanted to. Like, there's a ton of things that you could do with this team and with these picks. For me, I would probably actually be willing to send 110, 209, 211, try and get up to get a better wide receiver or try and get a veteran wide receiver.
It feels like in this league format, the 110 and those seconds might be able to get you like fucking T. Higgins.
Yeah, or even a productive veteran like Devontae Adams. If somebody's like really worried about Devontae Adams, you could send the 110, 209, 211, and maybe your future 2 and get Devontae Adams. I'd be willing to give up all that value. I don't give a shit. Your team's ready to compete.
Heck, given some of these trades, a guy like Drake London may make sense because people are like, oh, is he really that good? He didn't have a good rookie year because they're looking at the box score on a team that threw the ball fucking like 24 times a game. Right. So like maybe that guy's, who knows? Like I'm just looking to see what type of utility you're getting. If my advice, obviously you're spending 101, but given how some of these valuations are, every one of those other picks, you got to see what type of utility, what type of, value bundles you can form to try to get another wide receiver. If you can get a 5th wide receiver added to this team, you're going to have a strong top 3 with Walker, Bijan, and Pollard at running back. Obviously, elite advantages at quarterback and tight end already. You're going to win your championship. You lost in the finals last year, but now you're adding Bijan and some crazy, crazy nice help.
Yeah, and you had kind of like almost a borderline 0 RB type of core running backs last year, house money type of running back core last year. So you're in a really good spot. We can move on to the next team here, which is from Bobby, a 12-team Superflex PPR, half-point tight end premium start 10. So Superflex League, you got Lawrence and Geno as your main 2 quarterbacks, but not a ton going on behind those guys. Jonathan Taylor, Miles Sanders, Rashad Penny, etc. at running back. Drake London, Christian Kirk, Jamison Williams, Rashad Bateman, Michael Thomas, and some other guys there at wide receiver. Tight end, not a whole lot going on outside of, young upside pieces with Trey McBride, Juwan Johnson, and Irv Smith. And then he said this is an orphan team that he picked up before this season. He said he made some trades earlier in the season, and he also has some current draft capital as well. So his draft capital right now is 101, 110, 111, and 201. And then he has 4 2024 firsts, a 2nd, a 3rd, and a 4th, and a 5th. And then in 2025, he has another 4-1 as well. So this is again, I don't know the 3 free submissions we've gotten so far have just been absolutely ludicrous teams in this video. So again, I don't feel like we need to spend a huge amount of time on this team here, Bobby, but
yeah,
you got some cornerstone pieces. The way that I would align this thing is make your winning windows after you spend those 2024 and 2025 picks, just given that you have so much capital in those classes. So for me, I would probably be looking to sell off production pieces for even more draft capital.
Yeah, like right now, if you have that much draft capital, I know you're probably going to have to, take a financial hit in your league buy-in maybe for the next year or 2, given the capital that you've accumulated. But Jonathan Taylor, like, given some of the trades you made, you may be able to get fucking like 2+, maybe like 2 1s and a 2 maybe for him. in terms of future picks. Maybe somebody who's competing needs a running back. They're like, yeah, I'll give you my 2024 first, my 2025 first, and my 202 this year, or something like that, right? If you can make that type of move, fucking all for it. In terms of the rest of your team, I think realistically, there's not much I would do at wide receiver because you're either super, super young, which I like, or you have some, players that can accrue in value, whether that's Michael Thomas, Rashad Bateman. The one piece that maybe sticks out, but if you're high on him, I can understand you also, keeping him, is Jameson Williams, just simply because his valuation right now is like a top 18 wide receiver. Like, if you can make that transition, maybe you can get like Burks plus for him at this point, given the current market value. I think you might be able to get like Burks plus a 2. Like those are the type of like small moves sometimes you can make where if you feel like someone's slightly overvalued and you can get, in my opinion, Burks is a better long-term piece plus future pick equity. That's the type of transitions you always constantly got to be looking for. You mentioned here, I want to move Geno, the 110 and the 111 for a quarterback. I think that would be a fantastic move. If you can somehow move Geno, the 110 and the 111, given some of the trades you made, like, do you think like somebody would sell low on Lamar Jackson?
I'd probably be more willing to go after a bit younger of a quarterback, like Kyler, Justin Herbert, or Justin Fields would be the guys that I'd probably go after there.
I doubt somebody gives Herbert.
I doubt somebody gives Herbert. Maybe you'd have to add in some more to get that done. But for the most part, I think I would be looking, because you're aligning your winning window for 2024, 2025. I'm looking to get as young as possible at the quarterback position. And those guys are a little younger than Lamar Jackson and Burrow and some of the other guys like that.
Yeah, no, definitely fair. Fuck, man. Like you're in a really good spot here. Not really much else we can say. Jimmy G in a 5th for a 2025.
I don't even want to break down these trades. You just woodshedded everybody. Like, there's no need. Like, you got Keenan Allen for a 2025 first, Aaron Jones for a 2024
Henry
first.
for 3 firsts.
Yeah, I mean, Mac Jones you sold for a first in 2024, basically, plus Mills and a third. I don't know how the hell you got that done. Like,
you got JT plus for Barkley.
You got Jameson Williams for Purdy in a second.
Yeah, I mean, not much else we can say here. Just go out and dominate your league from 2024, 2025 up until like 2035 is probably your window.
I would say, like, make sure that this is a league that's going to last, because this is going to take you until 2024, 2025 to be able to compete. Once you see the fruits of your labor, spend those 2024 picks, you'll probably have a house money year in 2024. And then come 2025, when you add whatever 2025 has to offer, whether it's, Nick Singleton, Quinshon Judkins, Drew Aller, some of the guys that are expected to come out that year, that's when you're really, really going to have a competitive team. So I would say make sure that this league is going to last that long. That's the only concern I have going forward. But other than that, you are very, very well set up for the future. If you want to, buy low on some guys here and there because you have first round draft capital, by all means, take those windows when they come. But for the most part, I think you are in a great spot. So that is the end of the video. If you guys enjoyed, as always, leave a like down below. Subscribe to the channel if you're new around here. Check out our Patreon. Check out any ways that you want to access our Dynasty rankings, any ways that you want to get support from us on Twitter over there, Football Stock and Danny Football 59. We're tweeting out nonsense all the time. Check that out if it interests you. Check out our official sponsors, Underdog Fantasy, using that promo code FSE. You'll get 100% back on whatever you put in. You can do some big board drafts right now if you want to get way too degenerative early on the 2023 season. You can actually spend money right now and get some real stock in the actual 2023 season. If you think you're way ahead of the curve and you know exactly what's going to happen in the NFL draft, you think this running back's going too low in the draft, wide receiver's going too low in the draft, you can get a big time advantage on the early ADP. And some of the better teams that I've seen from last year's best ball cycle were drafted, in some of these big board drafts and, early seasons when you could get Dameon Pierce in like the 20th round or whatever. So definitely make sure to check out all that stuff. But with that being said, peace out. We'll talk to you soon.
Wire me the money.